right, fellas.
Oh, you're recording, right?
I can stop it if you want to.
No, okay. Well, I mean, we're recording it, so you can cut all this out, presumably.
Allegedly.
You're the one. You're the one with the broadcast hat on.
Thought it was a nice little tip.
I look really tired. I got really beady eyes, like this.
You're like a little lizard. Anyway, This is a great way of getting into the Sportscast Safari podcast. As usual, top professional. We still haven't got our theme song, have we, League? Do you want to have a go?
You guys are inviting me on here without a theme song? What am I showing up for?
Oh, man. Oh, we didn't tell you. Anyway,
the guest has to do it, don't you?
Yeah, you have to sing the theme song. Yeah.
Yeah. Yakety sack, like a little.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. It's better than we could do. Done. So yeah, done. Anyway, this is a ever professional Sportscast Safari podcast. So we have a very special guest with us, calling in from Virginia in the USA. Our good friend Andy Josselyn. Andy, how are you?
I'm great. I am sitting here in Virginia. It's on the eve of what looks like snow coming our way, as I was telling you earlier, Andrew, and that always brings such a flurry of excited emotions, especially when I'm a high school teacher, so the possibility of a day less of this virtual teaching nightmare that we're currently in is always welcome. So possibility of that happening on Monday makes me even more excited to get a car out, probably have a little shenanigans tomorrow. So that's a good thing.
Fantastic. So I guess we should
hang on. So virtual teaching, but still, like if it snows, not school.
Yeah. Because
really,
yeah. And let me say, before you say anything, it's really important that we have a snow day. Okay, so let's just get that clear. Yeah, like the internet around here is so hit and miss. Like a lot of the teachers are doing virtual school from their classroom, including myself. So it's like, yeah, I have to drive like 30 minutes to get to school to be able to Zoom. So yeah, so it's a little bit.
So do you ever get the real like, what do you call it, the truculent kids, or I've mispronounced that word, but the kids that don't really want to be there. And if it's all virtual teaching, they're like, oh, my internet's going bad. Oh, no internet. Yeah. Because if I was in school and I could have literally ended everything at one flick of a switch and just been like, oh, I'm gonna just go play Xbox now. Like,
that's exactly what's happening to millions of children all over the nation.
Internet outages like never before.
Well, somehow the internet is out, yet you're sending me an email and I can see you playing an Xbox in the background. So
maybe this is their lesson, that if you're gonna lie, do it properly. Anyway,
you got to build the story, right? You got to build the story. You can't just like do the little end bit. These kids are gonna lie better.
Yeah. I think a whole generation.
There's no forging of parents' signatures here. What's going on?
a whole generation is losing the ability to tell a good lie, like to get out of something. Like it's just like literally all you have to say is the internet doesn't work and I can't do anything.
And then do nothing else.
So I feel like I need to jump in and give a quick introduction as to who Andy is and why and how he fits into the Sportscast Safari story, because he really is a very integral part of this whole project, which is it's a very cool thing. So Andy, do you want to do the story? Do you want me to? Or does Luke?
Sure.
I'll start off the story.
Yeah. That's issue 1, Sportscast Safari. Double page spread. That is Mr. Josselyn filling up his GDV6 Alfa Romeo. That was such a sweet car.
And it is the title of that story is The Sportscast Safari.
Wow. The OG.
The OG.
Yeah. Well, thanks. You're making me blush, Andrew. And it's not the PBR that's doing it, I'm sure. But, well, I think I mean, if you want to go right back, I think that it's pretty amazing that we were like wholesome friends found on the internet back in the nascent days of message boards.
Yeah.
Like pre-social media. Like
yeah, it was, wasn't it? Jeez.
Yeah. So I met you because I was studying abroad in Adelaide for a year, and going in there basically blind with no idea what the hell I was getting myself into, which became incredibly apparent when I got there, and everybody I met from Adelaide was like, why did you come to Adelaide? But in my lead up to going there, I put a message on the Australian group of the Alfa Romeo BB Alfa BB website, and just said I was coming, and then you responded and were like, yeah, definitely hit me up if you get here. And
because I'm on this forum, and this guy's like, oh yeah, I'm coming to the University of Adelaide for a year. Is anyone into Alfas? And I'm like, are you serious? Like, who's on Alfa BB from America coming to the University of Adelaide? Like, what? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And then we met up on Rundle Street somewhere near the big chrome jelly bean, and
Mole's balls.
And it was great. And then you took me to so much awesome shit, like track days at Malala and stuff like that. I mean, that was like defining for me. Yeah,
except
like defining part of the experience.
The funny thing that I found so funny about that was that I remember we met up on, it was like day 3 or day 4 or something. You're really early, didn't know anyone. And then I reckon 3 months in, you were taking me to house parties, and you had more friends than I did, and you knew more people, and you were introducing me to people in Adelaide. And I'm just like, cool. Like, that like, I think we touched on it. Do you remember that there was that house party at that North Adelaide house? And I didn't even know. And of course, what I've come to know now is that, expat culture is really fun, and particularly expat student culture is really fun. And everyone's looking to make friends, so everyone's really keen on, But I just remember going to this, you're like, oh yeah, we've got this party, and getting there, and this house, and it was like a scene out of like an American movie. There must have been like 300 people spilling out onto the road. It was shoulder to shoulder, like the whole way through the house. There was a DJ like with the booth set up and the lights and the speakers.
I think there were 2 DJs.
That's the backyard one. Yeah. And then remember, the police shut it down, and then we all hid in what's that guy's name? Manoli's room. Yeah, good times. Anyway, whatever. Yes, it was.
Which permeated everything that happened. We're not going to say any more about what happened.
Leave it at that. Hey, I'm hearing Andy's sound. Is yours, Luke? Are you hearing Andy okay, or is that me?
No, it's Andy.
Okay.
Going funky.
Right-o.
Can you hear me?
What do we do? I've never used Zoom for a podcast before. I'm not sure how to fix this.
Can you not hear me at all?
We can hear you, but it's like you're a little chipmunk in a fishbowl. Interesting.
I can tell you nothing.
Just go to the mute. Go to the. Are you on your phone or on the computer?
Yeah, I'm on my phone.
Just mute and then come back.
This is better. Is this better?
Not really.
I reckon the app might have gone funky.
Zoom app.
Yeah.
The beauty of not doing this live is that we can edit this bit out.
Yeah. Great.
Well, just
Andy,
close it and reopen it.
Yeah, just reset it.
Just rejoin that.
We'll wait for
Close
you.
the app, rejoin it.
Okay.
This is the good part of not live, is we can edit this out.
Yeah, but then there's the time of editing it out.
Yeah, I know.
That was the best bit about live. You just do it.
That is done.
Done.
I'll edit it. I'll figure it out. Anyway. All good.
So sorry, man.
Dude, it's fine. It's cool. It's chill.
Too much going on.
Yeah. Late night last night.
No, it wasn't actually. I kind of forced myself to go to bed. I was in bed before 11. So
wow.
It was just a big day.
All right. He is joining the house. Oh, Luke.
Mm.
You will not.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey.
And we are back. All right.
I'm guessing the app just didn't like how long it was on for.
Okay.
Yeah. My phone is a little hot, so I'm sure that's not a great scene.
Yeah, that might do it. Anyway, so for those, we're probably going to edit that little gap out. So yeah, we'll continue on. We had a bit of tech problems, but we are back. You were describing a porno-themed house party in Adelaide, South Australia.
Yeah. Yes. Where all good stories begin. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that house in particular and that crew were amazing party animals. But another integral part to the early days, I think we have to mention, Andrew, as we were just talking before we started this whole thing, was Shirley, and your help in stewarding Shirley to other abodes.
Shirley was an Alfa Romeo.
I'm about to say I'm lost because all I've heard is porno, house parties, and then Shirley getting moving on to another abode. Much that Andy's gone. Yeah. So who's Shirley, Andy?
So Shirley is a lovely lady of, I guess at this point, what, 1980? She's in 81, I think. So she's
getting
probably
on now.
Yeah, about 40 years old. It's an Alfa Romeo Giulietta 2.0. I think it was an 84, actually, if I remember correctly. And it was purchased off the bulletin board for the grand price of $500. And me and my roommate Tiago and
Tiago,
yeah,
I remember.
He was from Portugal and quite an individual. If you're listening, Tiago, hi, miss you. And Kurt Graham, who was another friend of mine, who I met there in the program, who was from Indiana. So we went out on this thing together, bought it for $500 to do a road trip, and we drove it from Adelaide to Alice Springs and back, and did some off-roading in it, forded some creeks, had some insane adventures. The thing would barely idle, and like on
it's a hunk of crap.
yeah. Let's not oversell this thing. It was a true shitbox. Like,
didn't someone, when you were like leaving on your Alice Springs trip, someone reversed into it and then you got your money back from?
Yeah, somebody in a Commodore in a Kohl's parking lot smashed into the door and then had a panic attack because he didn't have insurance. And so he was just like, I'll go to the ATM, I'll get you some cash, let's not call the cops. And he's like, how much? And I was like, I guess like $500 to cover it. So it was a free car on day one of the trip. So
wow.
But yeah,
I bet second gear didn't work.
Yeah, definitely very crunchy, a little crunch, a little flavor of crunch, and the hardest part though was knowing when you were in second gear. I don't think I've ever felt a looser shift in my entire life.
No bushes. Had no bushes.
No, it was like stirring porridge, literally.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a good car, and made an epic trip, and was just kind of like on the scene for that year in Adelaide, which was a fun thing. And definitely Andrew for letting me change oil in the shed, and then taking it after I was on my way home and got a speeding ticket on my last, or a failed rego. I don't know what the lingo is. I got pulled over on my way to drop it to Andrew's house after my registration had gone out like 2 days prior. And
unlucky.
Yeah. And it was like a $500 ticket, and I was leaving the country in like 2 days. And so I mean, I told the cop, I was like, I'm not paying this. And she was like, well, that's your decision, but I'll still have to write it. And, you know, that's my rough Australian accent. I hope I haven't offended your whole audience, but
No, we take the compliment.
we can laugh at ourselves. It's all good.
You're the
right,
ones that taught me how to
no
do
worries.
that. Yeah. Australians taught me how to do that. Y'all are the best at that. But yeah, so wrote the ticket and so left the country. Andrew sold it on eBay, but a year or two later, I came back, or I guess it was probably 2 years later that I came back to Australia and lived for another year in Melbourne. But on my way back, I remembered I had this like outstanding ticket, and so I called like over Skype. I called the South Australian, you know, what do you guys call like what's the Department of Motor Vehicles called there?
Transport SA.
Yeah. Transport SA. Yeah. And I was like, hey, I don't know about this ticket. I just want to make sure. I'm just like curious. And she's like, yeah, well, you got to pay it. And I was like, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm going to do that. And she's like, well, and I was like, will I be able to get into the country? Is what I wanted to make sure I was, because people that lived in the house after I left had been getting mail to my house in South Australia for like tickets that were mounting. The money was like over $2,000 by the time I stopped paying attention to it. And yeah, so she just like, you know, basically said, I can't tell you whether or not you'll be allowed into the country, but I can tell you won't be allowed to drive in the state of South Australia ever again. I was like, you know what? I can handle that. If that's the worst that happens, I'm fine with that. And they let me in and there was no problems.
What a thing. What a car. You know, funny story. So Shirley was loose. She was loose. And our friend Michael Katskidis, a couple of weeks after you left, you know, we had it and you know, I was driving a little bit and it was kind of fun. And then our friend back in the day, he's like, you know, likes a bit of a handbrake turn. And then I remember he's like, oh, can I have a drive? And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And so Katskidis goes roaring up like Military Road. And then it's, you know, 2 lanes each way with the median strip. And then just yanks this massive handbrake turn and spins it around. And I'm just, A, freaking out, sitting in the car going like, the body roll was immense. But then also B, going like, man, I don't want to fix this car. Like, it's going to break. And I just don't want to have to fix it before we sell it. And it did help together. It did ripped a good handbrake turn. I think it was wet. But,
God, that's
wet and bold tires.
Yeah. I am surprised what didn't happen there was what happened to us in the road trip when we hit a bump. And I think we had the Beach Boys album in the CD player and it got stuck on the track, Help Me Rhonda, at full blast. And just would repeat the track over and over and over for like an hour and a half getting into Cooper Petey. It was Help Me Rhonda on repeat. Which that's what should be your theme song. That's
amazing. Yeah. Okay, done. We'll play that. Out of my life. Get it out of my life. Yeah. I must admit, my dad was so thrilled when that thing went because it was like, at least for me, it was kind of funny, but for him, it was just like a car in the way. So anyway, but it's all cool. So yeah. So fast forward, you went back to Virginia. You've got on with your life. 2013, I ended up in Virginia. And you were like, let's do a road trip. And so basically, I was in New York, and then Andy was nice enough. He came up in the GW6. He had that amazing GW6, which had the really rough body. Like the body was but mechanically was like ace. Like that thing was just so good, drove so well. And you come up to New York, and then remember we stuck into that hostel, and then you stayed that extra night for free, and then we smuggled you out at like 5 a.m. in the morning. That was great.
Yeah, actually, in terms of like that story, and you know, when we were putting that together and going through all the pictures, that's one of my like. I mean, there's so many good photos in that story, but like one of them was definitely the GW6 in New York. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that
was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was cool, and I'm glad that you got a picture of it being cool, because I fucking hate driving in cities. Like it's just not something I do. And so it was stressful driving in New York City, but I saw the pictures and I was like, oh, maybe it was kind of worth it.
I was just like, I mean, I've been there for a couple of days. Oh, I was staying. Yeah, no, that was.
Yeah, we stayed at that hostel, and all I remember from that hostel, since you mentioned the hostel, was me sneaking in and like the first thing seeing like the guy on the bottom bunks, like dick just out.
Yeah.
He was fully naked. At a relatively.
Yeah, we didn't have a late night. Yeah.
And that was, and then it was like, oh, sorry, man, I'm gonna be sleeping on the floor right next to you. Maybe put your dick away.
Yeah, and then we snuck out, and then that road trip was just a catastrophe, because here's me, like I hadn't really done that much traveling. I mean, I'd just done my Vestra trip in Europe, but I'd never been to the US before, and I was like, man, like we're going so close to Washington DC, like I'd love to, surely we can just duck in. And you, being the polite, lovely gentleman that you are, were far too kind to tell me that was a rat shit idea. Like we should never have done that. We should have just like kept going. And you were like,
yeah, it all comes down to timing. Like 5 o'clock on a Friday, not the ideal time. Not the ideal time.
But we saw it. I remember literally running into the Air and Space Museum and running up, physically setting sight on the Spirit of St. Louis and having like literally like 2 minutes of like cool, and then running back into the down into the car, and then we got stuck in that monumental traffic on the way out to Richmond. But anyway, so we did this trip, and it was cool because Andy had his GDB6, and then Andy's mate Steve came out and he had the Porsche 914, and then of course 3-car dudes, everyone wants to drive, so. Andy linked us up with this dude that rented out sports cars, and we rented this Alfa Spider 74. I reckon it was a 74 Spider. It was 76 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Fact check.
Fact check.
Yeah, please. We're entering hazy territory.
It says here, hooked me up with a rented 71 Alfa
71.
Spider.
Wow.
So unless you didn't fact check properly the first time, then
that is also possible.
I think it was a little. It didn't have chrome bumpers, I don't think. 74 was
no. What ones? I thought all US ones were all the plastic fantastic ones.
74 was the last year of chromies in the States.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's got like the Mondiali kind of like wheels on it.
Yeah.
It was like there he is.
Yeah, look at that. So,
oh God.
Rockstar.
Fresh shaven child.
During the shutdown, I remember that the first government shutdown, we were there and closed all the national parks because no one was getting paid. Welcome to America. And it was but
I had the best t-shirt. How good's that? Dude had a Speed Racer t-shirt, the renter guy.
Yeah. He was a cool dude.
What a dude.
He rented these sports cars just to fund his own addiction. And it's that guy and his cars, they're like these legendary cars that were beat to shit for decades and then like hit the market, and I bought one of his cars accidentally. And it's not a good realization to realize like you just bought like a rental sports car.
I must say, we drove that Spider hard. Like we drove it hard.
Yeah, it was smoking up Crabtree Falls Road. I'll tell you that.
Because when you're trying to chase like a 2.5 GDB6, like you need to work a tired Spider pretty hard to keep up.
Need a hustle. Well, that's like in Australia, whenever you like, there's a few companies, but like whenever you see a car that was first owned by WCH Proprietary Limited, it's Avis, and so like whenever you see that, you're like, maybe not this one.
No.
My grandma bought a Camry and it was a WCH car. Like when she bought it and stuff, I went and grabbed it and went through the books and was like, Oh no, she bought a renter.
It's
Still going strong to this
a
day.
Camry. What do you expect?
Goes forever. Misses
Yeah.
oil changes, no problem.
What are oil changes? No.
For a
But-
Toyota, I don't know.
But Virginia, like, Andy, you're part of the world where you live. I can't communicate how beautiful it is, and how good the roads are, and how friendly the people are, and how amazing the barbecue is, the food is, and Charlottesville, where you're close to, is just a really cool town. And yeah, it was just. And anyway, I guess to keep this train rolling along, the term kind of sports car safari sort of popped into our heads as we were on that trip. It was kind of these 3 cars in the safari, and then a couple of years later, when Luke and I, well, actually not a couple, it was the next year, or whatever, when we were looking to.
Oh no, we probably came up with that idea around that time anyway. It
Yeah,
just took
be
us that long.
similar.
It was like 100 drunk meetings of let's do this.
Let's do a magazine. Yeah.
Magazine.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and then we're just like, what are we going to call this thing? And then I just kind of thought back to that trip, and that was sort of where the seed was sown for that kind of capturing that spirit of adventure, and that kind of using the cars to have a good time. It's not really about the cars, it's about the what you do with them. And so that's kind of you day one. So it's good to have you. So
yeah, and that was for me, like, the fulfillment of a cool thing, which is you go away at this young age as a college student, right? And you meet people from around the world, and make connections over the various things that you make connections over. In our case, it was cars. And to be able to then have that continue into a friendship that might last a lifetime, with somebody that's from such a different world, and connected through cars, right? And I mean, it's awesome. And it's cool that in this conversation, and then in our more recent trip in England, which we can talk about, it's like when you have something this that you're this passionate about, you can just pick it up as if nothing happened, right? Like it took 30 seconds from us getting on this call before we were joking and laughing about random car bullshit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What I want to know, Andy, is how does a guy from Virginia, US, get into Alfas?
So for me, the Alfas thing was started in high school. So there was from my house, there's a beautiful country drive the house I grew up in was when I was in high school. There's a beautiful country drive that goes out to Lime Rock Park, which is a small historic racetrack set into the hills in Connecticut. It's gorgeous. And along that track, there's a shop called Alfas Unlimited, which I swear I'm not wearing the t-shirt on purpose, but I am. I just have like a dozen of these, but
I've even got
one. But it's just like this ridiculously idyllic little shop that specialized in Alfas. So from the age of 12, 13, when I'd go with my dad and my brother to go watch races at Lime Rock, I would always make them stop so I could peer into the windows and see what they were working on and stuff. And then, fast forward to maybe my junior year in high school, and I had a student teacher who was an English teacher, and it was just this righteously cool dude. And he drove an Alfa Milano. So is that what you guys call them there too? Or 2.5?
75.
75, that's right, yeah. Yeah, so we had a Milano, and I knew what it was. I saw him in the parking lot, it said nice Milano. And then he was like, you know what this is? And from there, then, we just got along really well. And so he ended up hooking me up with a job there at Alfas. So from the age of 16 to 19 or 20, that was my summer job, and any spare time I was working there, and mostly just shop boy type stuff, oil changes, cleaning up parts, small services, stuff like that. Definitely not, mechanic level or anything, but yeah. And I mean, just like totally immersed in it from that period on. And so, my first car was a 79 Spider, and that GTV6 that Andrew drove, that I picked him up in, was like the first Alfa I drove, and it belonged to the guy John who worked there at the shop with me, who's now a lifelong friend. And that shop was just like, it's Keith Goring's shop, Alfas Unlimited. People might know him because he had a Tipo 33 Stradale at one point, which that's a car. And then he turned that into at some point he sold it, and had GTAs and TZs and SCs and stuff like that. So just really, really cool stuff around all the time, and hook, line, and sinker for a while. But I'm a recovering alcoholic. I want to put it clearly. I have 0 Alfas right
now. Oh no! Gotta fix that.
I don't know if we do.
Yeah, they're good.
Yep.
Andy, I got one question for you. I remember you took me to the workshop, the sports cars workshops, and it seems like something I just, in Australia and here in the UK and Europe, you get, the specialists. You get a Porsche workshop, and you get an Alfa workshop, and you get, these. Yeah, America seems to breed these just generic sports car workshops where they'll work on like anything that's interesting, but it doesn't really seem to happen anywhere else. Why is that? Like, is that just a cultural thing, or I don't know?
Yeah, I think part of it, yeah. So sports car workshops is the other shop that I spent some time at in my formative years. That one's in Richmond, and it still exists, which is cool. Actually, I don't know, you probably didn't meet Michael Moore, but he's a young guy. He's like younger than me, and now he's running the shop, and they're doing really well, like going gangbusters and stuff. So kudos to them. But yeah, like I think it's just that there's not and this might be to some extent happening everywhere, like where all the specialists are just closing up shop, right? And so to make, and the cars are starting to, whereas before there were so many like MGs and beater Alfas and like beater everything. Like sports car really filled a niche of like, we didn't do restoration jobs really. We did like a couple, but it was mostly just like keeping people's beater sports cars on the road was a lot of it, like, average priced cars, and I love that sports cars still exists. And I hope that keeps going, because I think that part of that is going away a little bit, and I think it's exemplified by the fact that when I was working there, not long after you visited, or no, it was before. I think the 9/11 thing happened before then. But
yeah. You had tell us about that. You had a 9/11 for a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I was working there at the shop, and there was a guy that came in, and he had like a few cars, but he was like a sketchy dude in the construction industry and was facing hard times, so he was just selling all of his stuff off. And so I ended up buying a 73 911 that was black on black with a 2.7 with triple down draft Webers and exhaust, and wide ass. It was fiberglass flares and had a whale tail that looked totally ridiculous and stuff. But but it was $7,500, and it was running and driving, and I drove it every day. And street parked it. That like it didn't have lock cylinders on the passenger door. You could just open it. And that was like 2011, 2012. That you could still buy a long nose 911 hot rod for $7,500. And that car is probably I don't know. It's depressing to look up how much it's worth now.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah. You're right. It's an interesting point because anything that's left these days, I mean, here in the UK, yeah, definitely, like anything that's left is big money because it's nice. And yeah, all of the cheap beaters have been taken off the road and broken, have either been restored or they've been broken for parts or they've been, whatever, to the point where, yeah, you just, I mean, unless you move into, and, we'll touch on, we'll get to it, but, unless you move into the more modern era where you're talking, MX-5s and Z3s and boxes and stuff like that, like they're the new kind of cheap sports cars, because all the old MGBs, it's like there's just no cheap ones around because they're either parts or they're mint. Like there's nothing in between. Like,
and
which is for me like a weird for an MGB. That's the case because they're horrible. I don't like them very much.
They're fun. They're charming.
I mean, they're charming, but like when you look at that technology compared to Italian technology today, you go like, why?
Yeah. I had a friend of mine, a fellow teacher who may watch this. So hi, David, if you're watching. But he just bought one, and he told me he was going to look at it, and I was like, okay, that's fine, but you should drive an Alfa Spider from the same time period and an MX-5. You need to drive both of those before you buy an MGB. Like, if you do not do that, you are, I don't know what you're doing. But he bought it, and I think he got a great deal, and it's a nice little car. It'll be fun for him. But yeah, like I was looking up the specs. He bought a 78 MGB, so at the very end with the giant bumpers, 80 horsepower was what was quoted. 80
in 1980
from new. And at the same time, even with smog choking it down, a Spider made 115, 100, something like about that. Like that is a sizable difference right in the heart of where that's going to feel like a lot of a difference.
And you've got all the, independent suspension where it matters, find a mid-corner bump and the Spider doesn't skip half a foot across into the other lane. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, they're still charming though. But yeah, I mean, I think like we're talking about sports cars, Andy, and like going through that whole, that's kind of getting lost and you hope they stay around thing. I think that's been a shift in people's expectations of cars. For sure. Like what I've noticed is people don't really want to have compromises with cars. They'd rather have something excessive and maybe hit that, possibly I might need 7 seats, like instead of the the other approach, which I think is where a lot of these, you could get away with dailying a sports car stuff. Is like, we'll just shove people in, and or I need to carry that thing, we'll just deal with it when it comes up and compromise on it. Like, everyone, well, in Australia for sure, we're going through this thing of everyone's buying SUVs, or like the biggest selling cars are dual cab pickups. Like,
because I might need to tow a boat.
Because yeah.
Do you have a boat? No, but I might have one day. And if I do,
I don't know. There's still something charming, I think, about having a car that totally doesn't fit the purpose of what you're doing, but yet you still make it work anyway. Like, driving a Julia through like silly things and Fords and whatever.
Or like I had for a little while a 94 Miata, and like I went to go get my wife like a birthday present, right? And she's a farmer, she's a gardener, she loves plants and stuff like that. And she'd been kind of hinting that she wanted to grow some citrus in the house, like a tree. And so I went I'm just an idiot, and I take the MX-5 to go shop for a fucking tree. I don't know who does that, but anyways, I bought this tree, and then I've sit it just in the passenger seat, and the tree is sticking out the side of the car, and it was just it took like what would have just been like a mundane trip to go buy something and made it just hilarious and ridiculous, and every person that was looking was watching and laughing, and it's just like, I don't know. Sports cars just inject joy into life, and if you don't get that, then I don't even know. I don't know where to begin.
Yeah. I mean, but arguably almost smart taking the MX-5 because you can fit it in, no problem, no matter what size tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Roof
Yeah.
off you go.
Yeah.
And
How much of the tree did you lose on the way home?
A significant. I mean, it was significant. It was definitely like a wind-blown side, you know.
You get home and like, I bought an indoor ornamental plant that doesn't have leaves to hang your scarves on.
Yeah.
And I just want to like we're jumping. I know I was afraid this would happen, and it's my own fault, so it's fine. But we're jumping time frames left, right, and center.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Sorry, everybody.
no, sorry, no. This it's just one of my most favorite memories from that trip was you just jogged my memory when you mentioned Michelle's farm. So when we're on Michelle's farm, and remember they were out digging potatoes or something like out the back of the farm, and then we drove the Alfas up. And then they had that farm truck. And I think, for the record, I think everyone's naturally attracted to the cars that you can't buy. You know, it's just that the thing you don't have. And I know that you probably hate them, but I'm so obsessed with like 90s American pickup trucks, like Chevys and Fords. I think they're so cool. I'd love to have one anyway.
Yeah.
And then that farm, so it's this, a 94, 95 Chevy truck, you know, column shift, like, and completely rooted like this thing is just trashed. And then
we call it farm fucked.
Yeah, exactly that. And then I remember this. We jump in this truck, and then you turn on the ignition, and then the radio comes on, and it's a song by Toby Keith, and it's like, we can play it. I can find it because I listen to it now sometimes. It's so funny. And there's this lyric, and it's so Toby Keith is this real like Americana, like American, like, you know, like Trump kind of country singer. Like it's a real thing. It's a vibe. It's a real vibe. But there was a lyric, and I just remember, and Lady Liberty's there shaking her fist, and you know, and then they're talking about basically, I think it's like the Iraq War or something. It's like, and a rain of hell is gonna rain on you, you know. It's like, and we jump in, and it's like, courtesy of the red, white, and blue, as we're like cruising around this farm in this Chevy truck, and I was like, man, this is so cool.
Yeah. It's the right setting for that song and that truck and that thing. Like, there's no other time.
Bald eagle flies overhead.
We do have bald eagles on the farm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Legit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like the thing that I've gotten into since knowing Andrew is, and I made him come along on our English road trip to various bird watching sites.
Yeah.
Dude, I really enjoyed that. It's
fun.
Yeah.
It's just a game to play while you're out on a walk in the woods. It's awesome. But yeah, so bald eagle, there's been a nesting pair of bald eagles on the farm for like, I don't know, like 5 straight years now. And so we just see them all the time. It's pretty cool.
So do you like are you like nationally heritage listed site or something, or because like, you know, they're a bit protected, right?
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely protected, but they've had a big comeback. So it's one of those success stories of environmentalism. They, you know, had a big fall down in the late 60s due to use of DDT, which, you know, caused all big birds basically to crush their eggs when they tried to incubate them. So they banned that chemical and, you know, used a lot of different programs to reintroduce a lot of affected species into wild habitats. And bald eagles have made a really big comeback, which is cool. Yeah. So I think there's like in Richmond City proper, where, you know, Sports Car Workshops is, where we went to go visit, there's like 5 or 6 nesting pairs of bald eagles in the city limits, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
But
yeah,
that's a whole different podcast, isn't it?
I gotta say, you know, the whole birding thing, like, I actually really enjoyed it. It's kind of fun. It's a different kind of thing, especially once you've just jumped out of a little Abarth 500 and you've just belted the piss out of this rental Abarth 500 up a little mountain path, and you park and it's like ticking, tick, 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 and there's like smoke pouring off the brakes, and then 2 like young guys get off and all the people are just looking at you like, what are these chavs? And then you get your birding books out and your binoculars and walk off into there and start looking at birds. It's just,
it's a good cover for shenanigans. Like when people ask you, what are you doing here? you just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a bird watcher," and then everybody's just like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. They know that flavor of crazy.
They're like, but it's 11 o'clock at night and you've got 6 beers with you and a radio. Like,
Yeah. We all do it differently. But,
So yeah,
could I take one quick bathroom break pause? Would you
of
guys
course.
mind?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
go for
go.
it. We can,
Sorry to make you do it, but I'm just gonna
no,
go
no.
real quick.
You go, and then Luke and I can catch up on magazine stuff, and then we'll roll
Okay,
back into
cool.
it.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah. So Luke, Adelaide Rally.
Yes.
Slight deviation. Do you want to
Mhm.
continue this going, or do we want to pause and then restart?
No, we'll pause.
Okay. I think I can actually pause the recording.
There's some continuity here. I've got like.
Okay, we are back. We've had our comfort breaks. We're ready to roll. We paused it this time. Technology. It's good. So we need to touch on. I'm going to get a little bit serious for a brief amount of time, and then we are going to then raise the tone back up into hilarious humor. This is a story that, earlier, like last year, there's been a lot about American policing in the global media for various reasons, and we can get into that or we can not get into that. But either way,
Last year wasn't a good year for him.
No, there is one story from our English English road trip in 2018 that just sticks in my brain so much, because when I was reading what was coming out of America and what was happening out of America, it all made sense based on a reaction I saw in Andy. Like, and this is not this is just an off the cuff sort of reaction. And yeah, it really just kind of shocked me, to be honest. And yeah, and then when we saw everything kind of coming out of America last year, I went, you know what, actually, Andy, like, you're a white middle class guy. I was like, shit, imagine if you've reacted that way to what happened to us. Imagine being black or of color, of anything. I totally understand how that is an issue. And I think in Australia and the UK, a lot of it's just, a lot of people might have written that off. Well, not written it off, but might have just sort of said, oh, the media's blowing out of proportion, or it's, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, like, your reaction to this story is what made me go like, no, this is a real thing. So yeah, that's the down part. Now the funny part.
The funny part is Andy stuck on a really horrible
He's back.
Anyway, so are you telling the story now?
I'll tell the story and then, yeah.
Okay.
So Andy comes over for a road trip, 2018. We're living in London, don't actually own a car. So what do? You go to Hertz, and they had these Alfa 500 SASAs to rent for pretty cheap. So we're like, done. So we get this thing and drive it from London up to the Lake District in the UK, which in hindsight, and I wouldn't suggest we do that trip again now, because there's like 5 hours of motorway to get to the nice roads. And
for me, that's nothing. That's just like a jaunt. So
what I realized is that we actually drove past about 4 other areas of the country that were equally as beautiful to get there. So we drove past Wales, we drove past the Peak District, we drove past, anyway. So no, we ducked across into Wales, and we're on the Evo Triangle, which is a stretch of road made famous by Evo magazine, because they take all the cars out and test them on this sort of loop, and it's a really famous sort of bit of road. And yeah, so we're on there. I'm driving the Abarth, and speed limits in the UK are a bit negotiable. So yeah, we're booking through these turns, and this Audi A4 comes up behind me. And I'm like, oh, so this guy wants to go, does he? So, put the hammer down a little bit, and, and to be fair, we weren't going to the wrong side of the road. Like and we were definitely breaking the speed limit, but we weren't doing anything stupid. Like, we weren't, driving recklessly, but we were having on. And this guy kept pace with me, and then he kept on pushing me, so I'd go faster. And this happened for maybe a couple of minutes, and I'm just in the mirror going like, dude, this dude in this like Audi wants to go. And then we get to the straight stretch of road, and boop, 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 the lights come on in the grill. Undercover cop car. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, pull over, and I'd not actually been pulled over in the UK before. And I go to get out the car, and you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like you just freaked out.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
yeah. For me, there's like I've had a definite conversation with adults in my life of what to do when you interact with a police officer, and I know I've had that conversation, and I know like I'm a high school teacher, right? And I teach students from all different backgrounds, and I know my students have had a much more intense version of that conversation. Students of color, and yeah, it's just not something to fuck around with in America. So my whole thing is like, if you get pulled over, you keep your hands on the wheel at all times. You turn on all lights inside your car. You do not do anything unless instructed by a police officer, and you have to respect that authority, because I've seen a police officer pull a gun on a friend for nothing, so yeah, it is like a hardening, a reality that we have here. But yeah, the uplift part was like after we get pulled over, and yeah, what happened next? My jaw, I think, probably just was on my chest for for 10 straight minutes.
And so was mine, because in Australia, like, the police, we don't have that problem of them pulling a gun on you and shooting you, but we do have the problem of them fining the absolute living shit out of you for the most mild misdemeanor. And they're like, oh, you haven't shaved this morning. That's $770 plus processing fee, like this sort of stuff. So
the pen is mightier than the sword.
So exactly. So I'm just sitting there going like, we're fucked. Like they've followed us at like 25 miles an hour over the speed limit for like 3 miles. Like we are done, And I was kind of okay with it, because I was like, you know what? We're having a road trip, we're having a holiday, like it's going to cost a couple £100. You know what? It's an expense of the holiday. Like, it is what it is. We'll just pay it and move on. And then the cop, I get out, which, go to chat to him behind the car, and he's just like, saw you driving a bit fast there. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm sorry. And he's like, why were you driving fast? And I just said to him, I was like, just having some fun. Sorry, mate. Like really sorry. We're just out for. And anyway, long than the story short of it, he ended up not finding us, gave us a verbal warning, not even a written warning, just said, but he didn't say don't speed. It was the best bit of policing I've ever had. He didn't say don't speed. He said don't speed on the Evo Triangle. And he's like, this is a really famous stretch of road. There's a lot of people drive really fast on it. He's like, the residents hate it. He's like, in Wales, there's so many better roads, like not too far away, that no one goes on. And then he directs us to where we can find these good roads. And he's like, if you go down here, you can like go down there. It's fine. And my jaw hit the floor too. I was just like, are you serious?
It didn't take long before he was telling us about, all the drives he's had with Chris Harris and, all the, top tier guys. And like, they all have him on speed dial so that he can come and, let them drive it for exchange for riding like a, Ferrari Enzo or something.
Wasn't he telling us he blagged a ride in a McLaren F1?
Yeah.
I reckon. Yeah, like he pulled him over and won't give you a ticket if you take me for a burn in it. Like,
and I mean, as we were sitting there, they pulled that R8.
Yeah, they did.
It was like a demo car. It was a journalist car. I didn't know who was driving it, but it was an R8 V10 convertible. I wouldn't be surprised if he just like got himself a ride in that thing right there.
Yeah. And do you remember we had photos with him? Remember we took photos with him? I was like, this is amazing. Can we have a photo? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then we had photos with him.
It was nuts. Like I felt like I was I literally, obviously I wasn't in a different country, but just otherworldly.
Yeah, that was that even to be fair, like for me, and actually I've told that story to a few UK guys, and they've all agreed. Everyone has said that is not normal. They're like, you're really lucky.
Yeah.
But
that trip, that trip was for me, filled with those moments. There was that moment. I think the other moment that really competes with that one of just jaw dropping was walking through the camping paddocks at Silverstone there. It was just insane.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there is not that culture in the US of people showing up in their epic, you know, Ferraris, Lotus, whatever, and then just pitching a tent next to the fucking Ferrari. That is not a thing here. And it is so cool.
It's very actually, yeah, like the same thing happens at Le Mans for the 24-hour. Like, yeah, you get guys that drive over in anything from an MX-5 up to a, you know, almost McLaren F1, like anything you can care to think of, and they all just camp alongside the car, and they drink the same beer, and they drink at the same bars, and they sleep in the same rain, and they shower in the same showers. Like, it's well, not all of them, awesome. But lots of them do. Yeah,
it's awesome.
Cool. It's cool.
And I think, yeah, we had a little road trip with a few, like Steve Somerville, who was in the article with the Porsche. He came out and joined over this past summer. You know, we all stayed outside, tried to be as safe as we could, but did a couple of days here in Virginia and then over into West Virginia. So Steve came down, he brought his dad's Lotus Elise, and my friends Brian and John came down, and they had like a beautiful restored BMW E28 and a couple of you know, the typical Miata crowd, and then I was in my JDM WRX wagon, and in my mind the whole time was that Silverstone trip, because we just drove and camped and had a riot of a time.
Amazing.
But yeah, that combination of sports car, like that to me is like, needs to be a part of a real sports car safari. Is like, you're camping, right? It's a safari.
Yeah.
Come on.
Camping. It's just the pulling up and the you know, front boots, tents come out of small spaces. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It's part of the ideal safari.
Yeah. So what's in your garage now? Do you have a garage, or are your cars outside?
No, they are all sitting in like a fucking gravel mud pit at the farm. I am being so unkind to my car collection that I feel bad about it every day. But that might be changing here soon, but I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, no, so they're all sitting outside, and that's sad. But so in the garage right now, the virtual not existent garage, there is my wife has a Nissan Frontier, which I think you know is a Navarro, four-wheel drive manual truck. That's the truck around the farm. And then I have my daily, and I was very excited. I got this a few months ago. I picked it up for $1,300. It's a 2002 Ford Focus ZX3 stick with like 90,000 miles on it, like a one-owner car that I bought for $1,300. And then right after I bought it, Chris Harris did an interview on the Late Break Show.
Yes.
What is his daily ideal under $2,000 car?
Ford Focus with new bushings.
Mine has very not new bushings, but otherwise I'm in good shape.
Is it good? Is it as much fun as they say?
It's good. It's really good.
Hang on, what year is it?
It's 2002.
So it's one of the proper WRC Focuses.
Yeah.
2-door,
So
4-door.
Two-door, and it's got stick transmission, Z-Tech 1. I think it's 1.6 liter Z-Tech engine.
Yeah.
The steering rack is the same steering rack they were putting in Ford GTs at the time.
Really?
Yeah. That's part spin rating. Like, it is a tight rack. It feels awesome.
Yeah.
So that's the daily. But then the Radwood fleet is, I've got a 93 JDM WRX wagon. That
lovely.
I bought that 2 years ago from Japanese Classics, which is a dealership in Richmond. Which is interesting to talk about with you guys, because we're Americans getting JDM cars and ruining it for everybody else. Sorry about that.
Thanks for driving the values up.
Yeah. but yeah, so I got that one, and I have like done a lot of sorting work on that. I did the whole suspension. I put a friend of mine just happened to have a set of ProDrive P1 springs sitting on a shed, which are like, they were the ones that they put in the UK model STIs or whatever. And so I put those in some KYB shocks and white line, sway bars in the back, and it is a freaking riot. But I don't need to tell you that. You're a former
I used to love mine. I regret selling it. I mean, I had no choice. We were buying a house at the time, and when I'm terrible at saving and my part of the deposit is invested into a WRX, you kind of got no choice. But no, it was great. It was such a good thing. The thing that shocked me about it, and Luke and I, we drove it to the Bathurst 12 hour. In fact, the poster that's behind Luke at the moment, actually, the Gallardo, the poster, we drove it to that race, and we, Adelaide to Bathurst.
That was the year after.
Oh, that was the
year we had the
year.
I-30.
Oh man, that was awful. But but it was just like
2015.
The WRX was such a good cruising car, which shocked me. And the fuel consumption is scary around town. Like in traffic, it's just scary. But when you're actually on the highway, just sitting off boost at 110 k's an hour or whatever, it's actually really good. Like,
they must have like calculated it just off boost, because I was really because it was still up. Like it sits up around close to 3. It's like 2800 2900 revs just before 3. Must be just the point before it starts coming on boost, because I was scared that we were going to have like huge fuel bill of that trip just sucking through juice.
Because I was getting, I don't know, in miles.
It was definitely better than the G-Wagon.
Well, yeah, that. But I was getting 350 kilometers to a tank around the city. And I was like, dude, it's like 1200 k's to Bathurst. Like, this is going to cost us a mint. and it was good. We got sort of 500, I reckon, out of it on the highway.
Anyway. We only put 2 tanks in to get there.
Yeah.
So it was pretty good.
Yeah. For what it is, I feel like the fuel consumption is okay. Although it's easy for me to say because I think my gas costs about a quarter of what it costs each of you right now.
It literally does.
No. We're a quarter of the UK. What are you guys at the moment?
We are a pound. Okay, let's do the math. So at the moment, I filled the car up on the way back from today, and I paid £1.25 a litre. So £1.25 a litre, 25 GBP to AD. That currently, so that's $2.24 a litre Australian.
Wow. And
we're like $1. We're fluctuating between $1.09 and $1.40 a litre at the moment.
And so in US dollars, that's $1.72 a litre.
Yeah.
And how many litres are in a gallon?
Right. That's the next part of the math you have to do because we're stupid like that.
Yeah. Don't use the metric system. That doesn't make sense.
No.
So there's 4.5.
We need our liberties, Luke. Our liberties.
Freedom. 4.54 litres in a gallon. Yeah. So if we times 4.5 times 1.7 times 1.7, we are paying $7.65 a gallon.
Wow.
And how much are you paying? That's US dollars.
I paid this morning. I put some gas in the Volvo. I think it was for premium. It was $2.20 a gallon.
Oh, I'm crying. Good to laugh.
Yeah.
$7.65 a gallon versus $2.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well,
moving right along.
That's got to change. That's got to change if you guys are going to make any environmental impact whatsoever.
Yeah.
I would totally have a truck. Like, bring it on. Give me one of those 7-litre Geotech things. Like,
no,
give me an F450 or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to go on the record right now saying gas should be more expensive. We should be actually taking climate change seriously so that we can then enjoy occasional drives in our awesome cars guilt-free.
Yes.
And yeah, rather than feeling kind of bad every time you take them out, which is the current situation, which I think if we were doing more, we wouldn't feel that way, which would be nice.
I must admit, in the UK, and I've definitely felt this way, that since moving to the UK, I have very much split my needs for transport have become very divorced from my enjoyment of cars as a hobby. And yeah, bring on an electric car, bring on the train, bring on like autonomous cars to get to work. I don't want to sit in traffic and drive. Like, screw that. I'd rather, you know, do whatever. But Sunday morning, give me my XYZ and an open bit of road and 30 litres of fuel and let me at it. Like, you know, they're different things. They're different things. And I think Australia is a bit behind in that respect, where people are like, you can't take my internal combustion engine away from me. And it's like, dude, you're driving in traffic to work every day. Like, just get a bloody electric car and move on with your life. Like, you don't need
we got two things that are like kind of frustrating me with that. One is like most people have solar in Australia. Like a lot of homes have solar. You know, we're not huge high density living areas where, you know, most people are still in a house by themselves. You know, they're not in an apartment complex, which means most people have installed solar. So we've got green energy off the bat for trying to deal with electric cars, which I think is one of the things that is a bit, you know, when you're getting your power from an unclean source, to fuel a green car kind of doesn't make sense. But then the other bit is our government's not really giving any incentive to purchase.
They're trying. Isn't South Australia going to tax electric cars? They've announced a tax on electric cars.
Oh, they're heavy and they chew up the road more. Like, come on.
No, it's just because they're not paying fuel excise. Come on, mate. We can read between this one.
Exactly. And yeah, like I remember I was selling cars at the time when we got the Chevy Volt, Andy, down here. And the sheer cost of that thing, fantastic technology for back in that day, right? Like, you know, petrol powered car to give you extra range, cope with range anxiety, try and I think it was that's been a pretty cool stepping stone to get people across that fear, I guess, of electric vehicles, but still had plug-in and stuff. And I remember at the dealership we were working at, we got like, you know, got the plug-in put in, got everything set up, but just by the time you got them on the road, they were $70-something thousand Australian, which, you know,
at the time when a Commodore would have been 35.
Yeah, exactly. And when you look at what exemptions were in California and stuff, and we're going, well, yeah, this is expensive technology, but why aren't we subsidizing it? And I think even the other day, there was still something from Morrison saying that, you know, not really going to do anything with it. Like, why aren't we doing it? There was a whole, there was a bit of a kick up in the media about it. And I agree. Like, you know, for me, if driving around for work doing IT stuff, like, or, you know, or Ruth dropping the kids off at school or something, like, why aren't we using electric vehicles for that? I don't need enjoyment out of that part of my day.
put your sports car safari podcast on, put your heated seats on, and just just get there. Like, anyway.
Well, I do have in the interim to getting a reasonable electric car to drive around. Like, I think the two things that I bought to help my conscience are, first of all, that the Focus, because before the Focus, the other car that I have that's daily driven, so I have the WRX, and for a while I was daily driving my Volvo 240 station wagon. I have a 91 Volvo 240 station wagon.
That's a business.
Yeah, and this one has been turbo swapped, so it's a engine driveline from a 940T, and so, but the boost has been turned up to like 13 psi, so it's making like 225 horsepower, maybe 250 foot-pounds of torque or whatever, in a very
double what it was.
Double. And in a very like ridiculously 80s turbo way, you know, it's like all the lag, all the ridiculousness.
They're good though. We did a story in the latest SCS on a Volvo 242 GT rally car back in Adelaide, and chatting to Mike who built it, and then Luke did the story. But it's like, they are so strong. I didn't realize they have like a Dana rear end, which is shared with the Jeep Wrangler, and all of the axles, the drivetrain, like, it's pretty much built for 500 horsepower out of the box, you know, from Gothenburg in 1991.
It really is. It's got 2-pot front brakes, you know, so or 4 pots rather, like 4-pot front brakes. And the Dana, like, so the Dana rear end. I just know intimately about the Dana rear end because this summer, I took a COVID road trip, or should we call it a sports car safari? Is it allowed? Are you allowed to call it a sports car safari if it's a station wagon?
Call it what you want. Call it what you want.
A sports car is anything that brings you joy. That's my definition.
Cool. So I did like a 2,000-mile road trip up into the Adirondack Mountains in Vermont, in New York, and then over into Vermont. But before I did that, I put a Detroit locker in the Dana, so just like a limited slip, because that's what you need for a road trip.
And I'm sure that wouldn't have cost much as well, like because Dana rear ends are pretty common.
Yeah,
over there,
yeah. It was like
everywhere.
$450 for the diff, and then so no big deal. So put that in, and and then I had some weird noise coming at lock in the trip, and I was just afraid that the whole rear end was going to chew itself up, and that would be the end of the road trip on some fucking back road in the middle of nowhere in Vermont, which would not have been ideal. So I was looking up places to go, and then I found this place called the Swedish Pit, which doesn't sound like
it's a barbecue place.
That could go one of several ways.
My mind went to like whale barbecue. That's where my mind went.
Yeah. But instead, it's outside of Burlington, Vermont. It's like a awesome. You were talking about the dying art of being a specialist. Like these guys are specialists. All they do is Volvos, mostly the old rear-wheel drive stuff, and they were so helpful, But at one point, they were like, I don't think we can get the parts. They ended up just draining the fluid, and I think it was just like, just they all needed to kind of like maybe some burrs on the gears needed to get worn off, whatever. Ended up being fine, but I was about to stop at a Jeep shop to have them work on the Dana, because they were like, oh, it's a Dana 30, yeah, we can do that. Just weird.
Yeah.
But so it's a really cool car. I love driving it. It does, though, if you get into the gas at all, like you are immediately at 13 miles to the gallon. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous how bad the gas mileage is. So to counteract that, I bought from my friend Dana a 95 Honda Del Sol SI, which is the opposite. Like it runs on regular gas, so that gas, like 87 octane, is like, I don't know, like $1.50 a gallon or something.
Oh man.
And gets like 36 miles to the gallon and is a riot. I love it. It's really cool.
Please tell me, is it in some hilarious 90s shade?
Yes, it is teal.
Yes.
Oh. It is teal. Yeah. And it's a 5-speed with a 1.6 single cam VTEC. So it makes the same engine that was out of VTEC, single jingle VTEC. Wow. Yeah.
Amazing.
So it's like 125 horsepower, 7-something RPMs.
That's awesome.
It's cool. Like two things coming from that, from a recent NA owner, NA Miata, to that. Yeah. First of all, for Andrew, for you in particular, I don't know about like how you fit in NA, but for me, it's untenable. Like,
I look comical.
Yeah.
I look about a size too big for the car, maybe 2 sizes. Yeah. My mom said
NBs are okay. NAs are a bit small.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom said I look like a giraffe riding a skateboard. So it's just not tenable. So that's why I sold it. But this, like the Del Sol, I fit freaking fantastic. The seats are awesome. Yeah. It's a great tall guy car.
Yeah.
So there's that, and there's also just like the difference is the engine. That an NA Miata engine is a thrashy.
Yeah.
Thrashy thing. It's just not. It's vibrating and thrashy. Whereas the Miata, the Del Sol, it's just like, sings to the top, and it's a zingy, zippy thing. It's fun to be at the end of the rev limiter on this.
Yeah. They were for Australian people, it was like CRX, wasn't it?
The CRX.
Is that what you called them?
Yeah. And this one's a 95, so they had just redesigned all of the gaskets on the roof and stuff because they're notorious for leaking. This one, now I had to. There was a bunch of trunk leaks that I had to fix, but knock on this wood table, it's not leaking right now. This is a bonus.
Which is good since you've got 8 inches of snow coming tomorrow. So
yeah. But is this is a genuine question for y'all for Australian market? Like, was it the same situation? Did you guys get the whole Fast and the Furious thing where every Honda suddenly became pimped and like lowered and had underbody lights and body kits and all that stuff? Did that happen?
Not every, but yeah, like the show car scene definitely did go down that path.
Yeah.
This is a sidetrack that we have gone down before. Spec, Hot Fours magazine. It definitely happened, but not on the scale that it happened in the US.
Yeah. I mean, it literally killed almost every Del Sol. Like, the number
they all had the suspension that like the airbags. Do you remember that bit in the
static. Movie? Yeah. They went static.
Yeah. Oh, they were just chopped springs everywhere. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So anyways, like that's the I like that I've got like front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, turbo, non-turbo. It's just I've gotten to this point of like fleet management in my head where it's like, okay, I've got the perfect fleet, but then the fact that I have the perfect fleet terrifies me that I have a freaking fleet.
Hilarious. Anyway,
he's gone funky
I think we've dropped Andy's audio, which to be fair though, I'm conscious of the fact that we probably do need to start wrapping this present up and re-gifting it at the next. That was a shitty thing to do. But anyway.
Must be getting late where you are, Andrew.
Yeah.
11 p.m. We're 11 p.m. We're good. But anyway, mate. Andy, thank you for joining us. It's been we've been talking about this for ages. It's good to actually do it. And I think we should make this a semi-regular thing if you're up for it. I think it'd be
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it would be fun. And I've got some goofball car guys on my side that would love to shoot shit and drink beers and all that stuff too. So
definitely, I think the best part, and I hope that our listeners share this too, but I think the best part about cars is just that, as we were talking earlier, it brings sort of people together. And I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that like a hell of a lot of people in Adelaide, South Australia, and Australia probably don't know a hell of a lot about Virginia, but to actually just meet a bunch of these people from that part of the world and hear about what they do and where they drive and what they drive, and like I think it's really cool. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Then we got to plan post-pandemic reunion tour. We'll figure it out.
We do. I think it's my turn to come to you. So yeah.
This is why I'm maintaining the fleet, man, so that you have a car.
No longer we have to rent spiders from guys. Thrashed out spiders.
Shotgun Del Sol.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Luke, do we need to wrap anything up? Obviously, we've got Adelaide Rally coming up again, which I feel like we've been plugging the Adelaide Rally for the last bloody 6 months because, Andy, you might not realise that the rally was pulled a couple of days before it was due to get underway because there was Adelaide's only COVID lockdown scare. And there wasn't actually even any COVID; it was just a scare. But it caused
no, we had like there was a good 10 or 12 people I think that got infected.
Getting it every minute over here.
Yeah. 10 or 12 people. That's cute.
We got 1,000 deaths a day.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if we should be bragging about
Can I say, like the fact that that's a big scare for us, I'm really like that's
a good
comforting
thing.
and that's a good thing.
I think if Andy, I don't know, I don't want to speak for Virginia, but I definitely speak for England. I think pretty much all of England wants to be in South Australia about right now.
Yes.
So.
Yes, 100% yes. Yeah. Well, good news is on the horizon. I had my first shot last Monday.
Really?
So, they're getting the teachers early so we can get back in the classroom.
Have they taken control of your mind? Yeah, because that's what happens, isn't it?
I'm waiting for that. I need that extra download of data, but I haven't gotten it yet.
Fantastic. So anyway,
Awesome.
we're preparing for the
so we
next
got
rally in March.
Yep.
So yeah, that's really the next thing. I think everything's still kind of, you're not in lockdown, but various states of not doing too much. So, and yeah, we are definitely in lockdown, well and truly here. So there's nothing happening. But I might have a new car, so we can talk about that next week.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one, actually. That'll be a fun
Yeah.
one. When you get your new car, Andrew, can we go through the whole story? Can we be like,
yeah, I think we can.
Big long,
yeah,
detailed
it's a little
journey.
boring story, but anyway,
Yeah.
we'll save that.
I'll be
All right.
It'd be awesome.
Perfect. All right. Cheers,
Thanks,
everybody.
Andy.
Thank you, everybody.
See ya.
Yeah.